All right. So hi again, everyone. I'm Rosalita Laxina. I'm with NCOS. I'm the Program Delivery Officer. So before anything else, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we're meeting today, wherever that may be. In my case, I am Camaragal, land of the Eora Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to elders, past, present, and emerging, and also our Aboriginal colleagues who are in the room today. So welcome to the NGO Researchers Forum. If this is your first time here, the forum was started, I believe, sometime in 2012 by a couple of NGOs, and then over the years, the convening duties has shifted to NCOS, and then in 2018, we've started partnering with the University of Sydney, and now during the pandemic, we sort of became inactive. But this year we relaunched it, and we've had a couple of sessions so far with really great learnings that we've been having along the way. So thank you so much for being here. And I'd like to introduce, if you haven't met, Kate Masola. Kate is our co-organizer from the University of Sydney Neighbourhood Research Hub. And also Andrea Angeles is my teammate. We work together at NCOS with the policy and research team, and Andrea is working to implement NCOS's lived experience framework. So you might hear more from her in the future. So with that, I'd like to move on. Just a couple of meeting guidelines. We do have a packed program today. I think we've been very fortunate. On this topic of co-design, there's been a lot of interest, really. And we had the first session on April 28. We had 3 presentations back then. It was a great session with excellent learnings, and the interest again has been so much so that we have another 4 presentations today. So we have a good problem on our hands in that we are going to have to be very strict about our timekeeping. But having said that, we'd like it to be still as organic and as informal, because this is not a formal forum really. It's more, a gathering of researchers for a common purpose. And so, yeah, as you can see on your screen, we've got 15 minutes per presentation. And then at the end of the second presentation, we'll have a 10-minute break for group discussion where we can just talk about what we liked or what we didn't like, or questions about what we heard, or how we could realistically implement the learnings in our own context. And then we'll have another 2 presentations. So it'd be kind of fast paced, and then another 10-minute break after the last 2 presentations. And then Kate will close us out by, we just need to plan for the August and October forums. So we're right on the dot right now. It's 10:05. So I'll hand over to Flourish Australia, the inclusion team, Faye, Scott, and Mozzie. Love for you to introduce yourselves. And we're just really excited, because we were just chatting earlier about how it really is a genuine co-design that you are implementing in your space. So love to hear from you. Over to you, Faye.
Thank you. So can I share my screen now?
Yes. So Andrea, if you could, and I'm spotlighting.
Thank you.
Mozzie as well. Yep.
Oh, seeing the chat. Okay. Here we go. So hello everybody, thank you so much for having us, Rosalita, and all of your team. It's really an honor to be here. It's really exciting to be able to talk with you about what true co-design looks and feels like, and the outcomes that can be possible with it. So I will speak first of all, and then I'll be passing to Mozzie, who is the past chair of our Community Advisory Council, and then Mozzie will pass to Scott, who is the past co-chair or deputy chair of our Community Advisory Council. And the Community Advisory Council is made up only of people who access our service. So we'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging of all the different lands that we're coming in from today. And we hope that the future of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people will be a lot better than what it has been in the past, and we give our undertaking to do what we can to improve that. And we also pay our respects to people who are with us today who have lived experience of having mental health issues. And we pay our respects to everyone who has gone before us, who have paved the way for people like me, Mozzie and Scott, who have lived experience, to be able to have a voice about what's needed to improve mental health services and community attitude towards mental health. So in Flourish Australia, we talk about that co-design, true co-design really starts with one question. True co-design doesn't mean where you go, you've already decided what the questions are, and you have a good idea of what the outcome is going to be. True co-design doesn't even tell you what the problems are that you want to try and solve. It starts with one question: what are the questions that we need to ask? If we don't ask the right questions, we're going to get the wrong outcomes. And that's, I think, a part of the problem where services, it's very well acknowledged through the different commissions that have taken place in the productivity review, that mental health services are broken, basically. And I think that a large part of that concern is around that people are asking, services ask the wrong questions, so they get the wrong answers as to what needs to be done. Co-design is very much about equity as well, so not equality. Equality gives you the same size boxes where all people have the same opportunity to participate. With co-design, equity is really, really important. So at Flourish Australia, we're a very large, not a specialist mental health service, not-for-profit. And so all of the people that we support have mental health issues, and a very large percentage of our staff, over 60% of our staff, also identify as having a lived experience of mental health issues. And then on top of that, we have staff who have care and family experience. For people with lived experience of mental health issues, there are different things that you need to put into place to make sure that they have equitable opportunity to participate or to be partners and leaders in co-design. So people like me who are voice hearers and get very anxious, it's really important that people can see the people that are speaking so that they know where that voice is coming from. It's also if voices get loud and they're making a person falter in what it is that they want to say, you don't rush them. You just take it easy and say, it's okay. Whatever you've got to say is important. So just take your time. We'll wait for you because we want to hear what you have to say. And when you have that kind of attitude, then people relax, the voices get quieter, and they're more able to say what they want to say. People who get really anxious can lose their words, you know, so it's about doing whatever it takes to make the co-design space a safe space so that people can say what they want to say, express their ideas, talk about what the issues are, and to give ideas of solutions, what possible solutions can be. And we really need to listen. True co-design is about listening deeply, really deeply, and not coming with an agenda of, well, we know what we want. We just want you to say, yeah, okay, we agree with that, and tick the box. True co-design is about really engaging with all of the stakeholders and saying, what is it really? What is it that's important? What do we need to do? We want to hear from you, no matter what your experience has been, no matter what your mental state has been or is at the moment. You're valuable. What you have to say is valuable, and we want to hear. So I won't go through this now, but this is a really good slide for you to refer to later on. It's from Kath Roper, Flick Gray and Emma Cadigan, all people with lived experience who have designed these practical elements of co-design. So I would encourage you to go through and look at those. So our co-design journeys, they take up time. They do. There's no, flicked on. There's no getting around that they do take extra time than if you just, one person sat in their office and designed the policy or designed the framework, wrote the framework or wrote the document, whatever. It does take more time, but you get a much better outcome. And we really think that every minute of the co-design process that it takes, or hour or months or whatever it takes, it's worth it. It's worth it because then you're getting a service or an outcome that is led by the people that it really impacts. So for us, for Flourish Australia, the people that we support are people with lived experience, and we need to hear what it is that they need for us to improve the services, not just a little bit, but a lot, and to help people find their voice and find their way in the community, even if they still have experiences of voices or anxiety or whatever. So there are a number of accountabilities in our co-design guidelines, and accountability 8, it says all of them are a bit vanilla except for this one. Co-design processes and outcomes must have a local focus, but be aware and respecting of regional, national, global, intergalactic, all other dimensions, unique views, beliefs, and realities. Now, when the co-design team put this accountability forward, there was a lot of discussion about whether we can include this very different type of acceptance and thinking in a very official document that will be used to help us get funding, will be read by ministers, I can't, political ministers is what I was talking about, and by the LHDs and the PHNs, and what would they think of us if we had a official document that said that we need to be listening to what other people from other dimensions might have to say. And that's because the people that we support, having experience with people from intergalactic areas or other dimensions, it's real to them. It's very real, and so it's important for us to listen. This was where it was decided that this accountability would be kept as is, and this was the footnote. It's not going on. Won't let me. Oh, there we go. Okay. The footnote says passionate desire to include such a strong statement, which may usually be seen as alternative or bizarre, was respected during the writing of these co-design guidelines. This inclusion demonstrated to the people involved in the co-design of the guidelines that the people were valued, that their beliefs and experiences are respected and accepted, and that Flourish Australia is an inclusive person-led service, not a person-centred service. We talk about person-led. This bold step was not taken lightheartedly. After a great deal of discussion and deliberation by the co-designers, members of the senior leadership team met with the developers of the guidelines and the Flourish Community Advisory Council to discuss the possible ramifications of the wording. The importance and relevance of this accountability as a result, accountability 8 was adopted as is and included with pride, because to have not accepted this inclusion would have sent a message that Flourish Australia will only accept what you have to say if it fits with the status quo. Flourish Australia is truly inclusive respectful of the lived experience voices, and bigger than the demands of the status quo. So I'd like to pass to Mozzie now, who can tell you one really important element or one of the larger group of stakeholders that lead our co-design processes. Thank you, Mozzie.
Hi, my name's Mozzie, and I'd like to talk very quickly about the council, what we call the council, which is the Community Advisory Council for Flourish Australia. It's made up of about 24 people that participate within Flourish. So they're all people that access Flourish. We have a chair and a co-chair or deputy chair that is chosen by the people that are in the Community Advisory Council. We have meetings that now run since COVID once a month, and once every 2 years we will go to Sydney for a in-house meeting. The true part of co-design within the council is that the council will be asked upon by the SLT, which is the senior leadership team, the board of Flourish Australia, and all the parts throughout Flourish Australia to act upon policies, procedures, guidelines. Nothing in Flourish is decided without first asking the people that access Flourish Australia what they do, and that's where the council comes into it, and the council represents the people that access Flourish Australia. So the council is one of the very important parts of Flourish Australia's co-design. And throughout Flourish, it was throughout COVID, the council was constantly called upon to let the Flourish Australia head office know what was happening within the community of Flourish Australia. I'll hand over to Scott.
Thank you, Mozzie. My name's Scott Goulet, and I was part of the Community Advisory Council. I also had the opportunity while being with Flourish to participate in a number of co-design groups. These included the reconciliation framework, which was around Indigenous reconciliation, because I have an Indigenous heritage. I was also part of the community. One of the opportunities I had was the finance committee, which was a senior leadership team committee led by the chief financial officer, and included the CEO, the chief operating officer, and other managers within the company. And I actually sat on that group as a contributing member. I wasn't just there as some token to sit on the side. I was there as a true participant within that group, within that committee. And for me, I found that really important. I came from a business background before I became unwell and started hearing voices and developed paranoia. And I'd thought that my ability to contribute was over when that started to happen, and I got my first diagnosis over 20 years ago. Through the opportunities to work in the co-design with Flourish, a lot of that self-esteem was given back to me. And I think that's one of the most important parts for people that participate within a co-design and a true co-design group, is that the self-respect and the self-esteem that it allows you to develop is really important. And I got to see my contributions put into practice. I was part of work groups that developed the co-design guidelines, and that accountability aid was partly my contribution. Because I'm a voice hearer and my peers have those experiences, I was able to help communicate that through the group. One of the other work groups that I was a part of is the Outcomes and Improvements work group, which was originally called the Monitoring and Evaluation work group. Now, for me personally, I find the word monitoring very confronting. I have a paranoid belief that I'm being monitored all the time. And I find things like this actually a bit difficult, but I can do it today. But I believe that I'm being monitored and that everybody's being monitored and there are spies. And I brought up that people may find the word monitoring in the monitoring and evaluation framework confronting, and suggested outcomes and improvements as a different name. And that was adopted because I was able to express and I was listened to that maybe talking about monitoring people could trigger some of us that live with mental health concerns. And for me, you know, that helped my self-esteem greatly. It helped me feel listened to. It helped me feel appreciated. And it helped me to recognize that my opportunities to contribute to the world, to my community, to my peers wasn't finished with. And that led me to put in an expression of interest to participate on the Lancet Global Commission on Psychosis, and where I now sit on their community advisory board. And this is a multi-year commission that's looking in the state of psychosis treatment, how people living with psychosis cope around the globe. So what is the state of people living with psychotic illness around the globe? And I'm now part of the board, the community advisory board to that commission. And it was through my experiences with co-design in Flourish that I was able to build up the courage and to have the confidence to go forward and to contribute and put through an expression of interest to become part of that. I was accepted. And, you know, for somebody who had thought, I had a management background when I was working in business. And over the years, as I became unwell, I lost that. You know, I ended up homeless at one point, multiple points actually. And, you know, through my illness, had lost a lot. By being listened to and being included, I was able to grow within myself and to recognize that that loss isn't permanent, that I still have a voice that's worth listening to, and that I'm still able to contribute to the greater whole. And that for me is one of the most important things of a true co-design experience. I've been parts of other committees when the whole consumer movement was just starting to begin, and most of the time it was tokenistic. You know, you'd be handed something that was all ready to go and people just wanted you to go, oh yeah, this is nice, let's go with that. You may have wanted to put forward changes, but by the time we got to see them, they were too late. With Flourish and their co-design methodology, we're included at the beginning. And we're there to be able to put forward, you know, that the question that they're asking us to work on isn't necessarily the right question. And that's listened to. You know, it's important for all of us to be able to feel a part of and to feel included. And that's with the policy of equity. When my voices start to play up, you know, I'm given time to speak and to get my thoughts together so that I can put forward the view that I want to make. And that has been life-changing for me and has given me opportunities to step forward and go forward in the world. And thank you for listening to us.
Thank you so much, Scott, Mozzie, and Faye. We could sit here and listen to you the whole day. Really, it's your voice is incredibly authentic and thus really helpful. So I'm just going to move quickly on to introduce Jade and Simon from, again, Flourish Australia professional practice team. So without much ado, Faye, if you could stop sharing your screen, and Jade, I'll put the spotlight. We're in for, you know, another hour.
Oh, what? Oh, there it is. Lost it.
Is that your screen, Jade?
There we go. Is that,
Okay.
Can you see the screen there?
Yes, we can.
Oh, thank you, Faye, Simon, and Mozzie, for sharing your journeys with us and teaching us always. And thank you for having us, Simon and I, here with you today to talk about our experiences participating in a co-designed research project called Behind the Scenes. So my name's Jade Ryle. I'm a Galari Wiradjuri woman and the program manager for Flourish Australia's Back on Track Health program, our physical health program. And the behind the scenes project that Simon and I worked on together, who will be presenting as well today, is a qualitative research project that looked at interviewing people with co-occurring mental health and alcohol use needs, with the aim of co-developing a strategy to support people to meet those needs when they're accessing Flourish Australia services, and to develop skills and capacity to do that well beyond their time with Flourish Australia. So just quickly about the behind the scenes project. We worked to understand what the priorities were for people with lived experience, and where we need to be focusing our research and research priorities. We of course looked at the literature, which very clearly outlines things around the gap in life expectancy, rates of chronic disease and increased risk, and alcohol, as smoking, nutrition, physical activity, major risk factors leading to early death and increased mortality and morbidity. So we worked with the University of Newcastle. Our Community Advisory Council assisted in co-developing a survey for staff to complete around their provision of preventative supports, which smoking, nutrition, alcohol and physical activity, and also co-designed a survey to ask people who access the service about their experience of the receipt of preventative health supports from Flourish. From there, we were able to identify alcohol as being an area where staff are probably less confident, or not probably, reported that were less confident to ask about alcohol use and alcohol use needs, and provide information and referral when people had concerns. And so we thought that's really useful to know, and we need to now think about what the best way is to move forward from there and find a way forward. So we thought we should really ask people. And so the project was funded by ComDAN, Community Mental Health Drug and Alcohol Research Network, through an innovation evaluations grant. And we set about designing a research a project to hear from the lived experience of people living with co-occurring mental health and alcohol use needs. So that's a bit of how we, I just wanted to share that because it tells you sort of the story of how lived experience and the voice of lived experience has been from the beginning identifying where we need to be prioritising research needs. And so Simon is going to introduce you to who the co-designers were and what we set about doing.
Thank you, Jade. The Community Advisory Council has been discussed at some length already by Scott and Mozzie and Faye, and they've given us an excellent background into what the existence of the council is all about and what people achieve under it. I've got some more general introduction to provide that will be useful for an overview, I suppose, of the council. Now, the council has been operational since 2016, coordinated by the General Manager Inclusion, Ms. Faye Jackson, and her support officer, Ms. Kim Jones. It's a democratic organisation consisting of approximately 20 or so people who are selected from most regions of the Flourish organisation, with a chair and associate chair elected from within its number. People who are selected often have a study background and care deeply about giving a voice to their peers and supporting the operations of Flourish more generally. We undergo training as part of our roles. For example, I'm currently on the committee, and we're undergoing training in self-care and managing aggressive behaviour as two topics that we're currently looking at. Peer involvement is encouraged into wide-ranging topics of interest to management, with group discussions facilitated on Zoom. Now, from within the Community Advisory Council, there's actually a Community Research Advisory Committee, of which Scott Goulet was a member, is a member, and thank you, Scott. People are drawn from the council to participate in the Flourish Research Committee, which has recently expanded to contain more than its original 3 members. I believe every member of the council has expressed interest in joining the research committee, which will add a little bit of beef to our burger, so to speak. The research committee was designed to facilitate consumer participation in regular updates and guidance for ongoing Flourish research undertakings. More specifically, we were recruited to provide guidance and lived experience feedback into the general issue of people identifying as having problems with alcohol from among the Flourish population. We were also encouraged to collaborate with third parties who had lived experience in the area and could perhaps provide guidance to the program. Now, that's the research committee part of the picture. There was also the outcomes and improvement team of Flourish, which included researchers Gwen and Kate, from the Back on Track health manager Jade, Matilda Centre, University of Sydney mentoring from Steph Kershaw, and ComDan was the funding body. So that's sort of a general picture of all the participants. Jade.
Thanks, Simon. And so we really just wanted to share our experience of that research process, and just give you a bit of an idea of practically what we did. So we met, the people that Scott's just introduced you to there, we met weekly in the beginning. And you know, in that time, we reviewed all documents, we completed documents when the group were together. I guess going back to the earlier presentation about, you know, everybody being provided with the same the time, but being given time in those meetings to share and not doing work. We agreed that we didn't want to do work separately and then come together afterwards and discuss it. We really wanted the discussions to be held while we were all in the room. And so that was really important. So we obviously reviewed the grant application and we really spent a lot of time making sure that the questions that were being asked were the right questions. You know, clarifying aims and objectives. As a team, we met with funders, so there was no sort of separate meetings or meetings after meetings, which was really important for us as a team to make sure everybody felt included and across what was happening, and, you know, for the transparency of the process. So that meant writing the ethics applications together, responding to ethics feedback as a team, which really helped all of us to build our research skills together. And I think was, you know, a really important part of the project. If I think about what worked well from my perspective, I think certainly drawing on a range of expertise, including lived experience. We had Steph Kershaw from the University of Sydney, who was our research mentor, and she was outside of Flourish Australia. So it was really lovely for us when we felt like we were getting a bit stuck on something to say, let's ask someone outside of this. Maybe we need, you know, someone who's outside of it to share with us a little bit more about the research process and for us to understand. And then we would hear what Steph had to say, and then as a project team, we would discuss it and find a way forward. And I think that was a really crucial part of helping you know, develop trust within our project team, but a real transparency and I guess a bringing together. So no meetings after the meeting, and, you know, always returning back to that research question and seeking that external guidance really helped us to make informed decisions. I think, what would we do differently, or what could we have done differently that would have improved? You know, writing the grant application, we definitely had, you know, we had information from the previous surveys where people shared their experience, and that informed the grant application.
Yeah,
but I
that's all
actually wonder if it would have been, well, I know it would have been more useful to actually have written the grant application together rather than just looking at the survey responses, that we actually co-wrote the grant application as a project team, so establish the project team first. But in saying that, you know, I still think the way that we did it, you know, honoured, you know, the areas of focus that we thought would be most important. Yeah. Simon.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jade and Simon. And once again, I'm sure we're bursting with questions now, so I'll just open the room. We have around 7 minutes to just give feedback to the Flourish teams. And there's some feedback on the chat box already, Jade and Simon and Faye, Scott and Mosey. Really great feedback. Okay, so anyone, questions? You may just speak up or raise your hand or type in the chat box. I'm just going to check the chat box now.
Simon, did you want to just expand, just while people are thinking about their questions there, on what you thought worked well?
What worked well for me was skills acquisition and understanding of process, decision-making, what's involved in a research project. I learned a lot from Gren and Steph and Kate and from Jade and everybody. And Scott, Scott was able to use his work experience in the group, and I think that was extremely valuable as well.
Oh, sorry. So I'll stop recording just so people will